Okay, it's just on 2 o'clock. Welcome. We're going to make a start. We've got quite a few attendees today. We've got a lot to go through. So welcome. This is the Simple Fund, Simple Invest update webinar. My name is Matt Crofts. I'm a CPA SSA with 25 years experience in the SMSF sector and an avid investor. And really what today's about is really I just get to show off what all the teams have been working on and give you guys an update. Hopefully you'll get some tips and tricks out of it as I'm using the software, and we'll make a start. So a bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded. Attendees will receive an email after the session today. Please use the question and answers today. I've got Sid, I've got a number of team members, Andrew, Eric, Mario, all from the product team. These guys are experienced to answer your questions. So just use the Q&A questions on normally the right-hand side. There's a Q&A button. Each version of your Windows or Apple Mac might be slightly different, but click on that. Feel free as I go through just to type in your Q&A. And if we've got time, we've got about 45, 50 minutes today to go through the sessions. If we've got some time and finish up, I'll try to go through some of the common ones as well. So welcome. It's certainly been a busy 2022, I'm sure, for accountants and for us. I wanted to give you a quick update on SuperStream because, you know, speaking to a lot of practitioners and accountants, this is really the challenge coming in from 2021. It's a brand new system. It's totally digitized. It's going to have some pain points. You guys have got to train and learn about it. So the good news is we've now got nearly 35,000 clients registered for our new BGL ASA. And if 2021 was a wipeout and you don't know there's a new BGL ASA, that's the electronic service address. There is one. We used to have Australia Post using the system. We still do support Australia Post, but they haven't built their rollover functionalities yet. They're telling us it's February. So we went out, we had to get it out in your hands in October, and we did the full box and dice, contributions, rollovers, release authorities. So very simply, if you've missed out on any of our updates, you want to do a rollover to an APRA fund or an SMSF to a rollover to another SMSF, you need to use the new BGL ASA. All right, a lot of initial hurdles, we know, but now we're seeing a lot of turnover. You know, this is the whole benefit of going digital is we're seeing a majority of payments turned around in about 48 hours and over 1.6 million contributions processed through the system. So that's a big success. If you haven't seen SuperStream, there's a very detailed webinar where myself and Joanne went through. Joanne's really headed up the whole SuperStream project. Just type into YouTube BGL SuperStream October, and you'll see all the overview. Went right through everything to do with SuperStream. Today's mostly an update. So just if you need a full deep dive, have a look at that YouTube session there. All right, I wanted to go through some of the common problems because it's not perfect. It's still a lot of learning. The first one we're still seeing, in fact, I just saw one this morning from a large super fund where they were complaining they hadn't received the payment yet. They hadn't received the notification through SuperStream. The client was complaining. We dug into it and we've seen so many of these over the last few months. The client, being the trustee or the accountant, had not registered for the BGL ASA. Okay, so when they initiated the rollover, they said they were on the BGL ASA, but you have to go into the software and move from Australia Post to BGL before you can do anything. You've then got to notify the ATO. We know this is painful. We've been trying to work with the ATO to streamline this process, but it is what it is. You must register for the BGL ASA before you do any rollovers in the system or before you can accept any rollovers in the system. All right, we're seeing a lot of issues with SMSF to APRA funds. We've learned a lot. There's been a lot of miscommunication around the USI and the ABN. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. Just really double check when you put the USI in, which is the unique service, only APRA funds have this. Make sure you're getting that correct and make sure the ABN matches. And then when it comes to the payment, okay, now rollover is great in that we can automate a lot through the software, but we can't automate the payment. We can't do the internet banking. That must go through internet banking. We've had a number of discussions with clients. You can't send a check, all right? And some clients have even reported they're having trouble going into the branch because it doesn't meet the ATO definition of their banking requirement. It must have the payment reference number in there as well, which gets created when you generate the rollover. And that when you make that internet banking payment, or the client, your client makes that internet banking payment, it must have this payment reference number. That's where the APRA funds will reject unless you come across a nice APRA fund or a nice person and they can match up the member details, but it's causing a lot of issues. Okay, I've got Eric on the call, so do keep putting through your questions. I can see some coming through on this. Eric's certainly here to help with some of those questions. But there's some of the common problems. What are we doing? We're trying to constantly look at where you're getting stuck and trying to just make it more and more idiot-proof. You know, the software is not, it's always in a constant state. And that's really one of the things that BGL are great at, is releasing regularly, monitoring the software and watching the support calls and seeing what we can improve. So one of those issues we saw was the incorrect USI. So what I'll just show you in the ABN is if you go into the SuperStream dashboard, if you haven't done any SuperStream stuff, it's just located here. All right, to register your fund for SuperStream, you just select the fund here and then register the fund. But most of all the new rollover stuff occurs in this SuperStream dashboard. We're going to migrate a lot of the Australia Post across into here, but we really wanted to get all the functionality done first before we start turning off features. So what I've got here is a rollover already prepared. This is where it lists your release authorities in here and any SuperStream rollovers. Here you can see the various statuses at any point in time for this fund. You've also got a global view up here so you can see all your rollovers. Here, what I'm just going to show you is a rollover that's been, you know, on the transferring fund. So you can be the receiving fund or the transferring fund. In this case, I'm the transferring fund. So I'm going to roll over a payment into an APRA fund, okay, rolling out of this SMSF. I've selected all the details here. As I said, we've got a detailed session on how to do all this from our YouTube channel. But what we've done to improve here is just make sure that once you've got the USI, you can paste that in and just tab out. And we're looking up the fund validation service now. So this fund validation service, FVS, the acronym, you might see it when you come across SuperStream, but fund validation service is run by the APRA funds. All right, what we've learned out of this is it should populate the correct ABN, but you want to be double checking that. We're validating this ABN now and this USI. If I put an incorrect USI in, it should pop up a message. If I tab out, maybe that's not an incorrect one. Should pop up a message saying that's invalid. Trust me, it did before. Sometimes this fund validation service does get a bit of lag in it. It's run by the APRA system, so we can't totally control it. But believe me, it did pop it up before where it just basically showed the fund validation service was not valid. So this USI, so we're validating that now. We're populating the ABNs. You can always click this retrieve bank details. That's been there for a while. It's copying the bank details off the fund validation service. So that should reduce the incidence of where you're putting in the wrong ABN or the wrong USI. Okay, so there's been some big improvements there. Messages will pop up if it's incorrect. And also be aware, I wasn't aware of this till recently, some APRA funds are not actually verified for the new rollover standards. So occasionally you might put in a USI, it's correct. It'll actually pop up a message now that APRA fund is not ready for rollover. So it'll just stop any pain before it starts. Okay, so a lot of that's all in the help file. There's the improvements that we've made for the fund validation service. Much more error messaging enabling in this screen. You can see more validation here, then you save and submit it. Once you've got the correct details, I'm just going to close this. Right, so that's that particular function. This is the other improvement that we've done. Just when you have a rollover coming in, so this might be an SMSF rollover, SMSF to SMSF, and you've got a new fund coming into the system. Okay, so it might be initiated by another BGL client or another SMSF, and they're rolling it into this SMSF that you're managing. It'll now bring in that fund name and put that into the contacts. We were seeing a bit of duplication there, so we've just improved our contacts. I'm going to settings here, contacts. A quick tip, if you don't want to navigate the menu and you're a bit of a keyboard warrior, just go up the top there, hit contacts. I've just typed CO on my keyboard. You can just hit the question mark keyboard to bring up that. If I just hit question mark, it brings that up. Okay. So it's just a quick tip. And then if I type in Eric test fund, so I've received a rollover. All the contact details are now added to the contact database. We're trying to remove duplicates because if if you're doing multiple rollovers, we didn't want to be creating multiple entries here. And what you can see now in this contact is also a link here. So we've got Eric's testing fund and we've got a link to that actual transaction there. So you can see this is the particular contact that's linked to that particular transaction there. So if you do have duplicates, you know which one's linked and which one's not linked. Okay, so that's just some improvements that we've added into it to stop the duplicate contacts and putting in more links so you can just monitor those SMSFs that might be accumulating in the fund. Just other things I just wanted to inform you guys, and I know some of you are not full-time SMSF and have to manage other parts of the business as well. But the good news is when SuperStream first launched, there was really a lot of missing data. You may have had the bank details there for matching for the SVS service, which is matching the fund service, and also the SuperTick service. You may have had it all up to date, but there was a few hiccups with the ATO quality data. I was told sometimes in the first few weeks, 60% of the data was missing. I call that a fairly major issue. But the good news is a lot of that data quality where we're matching the ABNs, making sure the fund's registered with that ABN's, got a bank account details, got the members' tax file numbers, that data quality is much more improved. So we're seeing a lot less issues of those now. But just a reminder, you must have a bank account set up on the ATO portal and you must have the fund registered. We know you guys are having challenges with a 3-day time frame. really, there's been some good articles. I'm not going to get into all the compliance, but really you have 3 days from the day you receive the rollover request to start initiating and at least communicate back. You know, the key is make sure you're communicating back and acknowledging those messages. Otherwise, you can get into a bit of concerns, I guess, when the auditor picks up the transaction messages and it's sat there for longer than 3 days. So there is a 3-day turnaround requirement as part of the SuperStream standards. I do recommend you just, you know, obviously, you know, us accountants have to document everything. It's the same message, just keep documenting stuff. We are working on a transaction report. You can get a lot of the transaction data when you go into the dashboard, into here, you can see the transaction history in here, all the past events, you can see all the details here, but we are working on putting a print button here just so you can export it, make it part of your work papers, something that the auditor, I know, you know, if you've got a thorough auditor, might wanting to see that information. All right, so that print button's not there yet, but we're working on it furiously. There's a lot of different, you know, details in all these events. There's a lot of information we have to sort of format. It's a job in itself. So we're working on that. That is coming, but just be aware you can at least view those transactions, take a screenshot, and put those into your work papers if you need to be tracking that additional information or troubleshooting it. So that is a bit of an update on SuperStream. As I said, we're working on this transaction report. You'll start seeing this print button come in the next release, hopefully. All right, so the big ticket item is really what we've been also working on, is the trust tax return. Okay, I know this, most of you guys are SMSF in this session today, but for those that are not aware, we've also got our sister product that manages all your trust, company, individual CGT requirements. What we've done here and what the team's done, super proud of what they've been able to achieve in a very short time frame. We released Simple Invest in June last year. It's a bit of a blur last year, but June last year, and already we're getting to the beta release of the trust tax return. It is just paper at this stage, PDF paper, but it has got some status tracking and we're working on electronic lodgement. But it's a huge milestone, so I'll just show you that. I'll just switch across. If those that haven't attended any sessions recently may not be aware of this, but it's all in the same system. So the menu just changes across here, very familiar menu structure, you know, haven't got time to go through it all today, but the same transaction list that you're familiar with, the same automation, you know, the same machine learning to process all the different transaction types, and really easy to use. Investment tracking, it's really set up for investments for those that may have closely held unit trusts or discretionary trusts that supports all those. And what we've done here now is really improved on what you'd probably know as the simple fund period compliance. We've taken that and really improved it even further for a trust and for a company. What I'm going to show you here is the workflow. You can do quarterly distributions or monthly, or even your own custom if you're doing cash distributions for a trust. If you want to do the tax return, you've got to do year end. So it's got to, I'm just going to do a year here, or it's got to be the 30th of June to generate the tax return. So I'm going to start that workflow. This is really where the time saving comes in. Generates, you know, what you'd be familiar with in the SMSF space, generates all the franking credits, taxable income, does all the heavy lifting for the tax calcs, even does your revaluation reserves, so you can just save and post those, does the journal entries the same as Simple Fund does. You can then do some smart income streaming where you can distribute the capital gains separated from, you know, I want to distribute maybe, let's say 75% of the frank distribution to the company, 25% of the frank distribution to here, but I don't really want to give the discounted capital gains, and I'm not giving tax advice here, but I'm going to allocate those discounted gains through to the individual member here. So I've got a company beneficiary, also known as a bucket company, and a individual. So I'm going to distribute that and stream it. You can see the remaining earnings, it's just populating there out. And then I can just auto-fill the beneficiary forms. Great. If you've got a big family, huge time saving here. I used to have to manually type these into a tax package, which will remain nameless, but what I can then do is then just post those, and straight away I'm into the tax return now. Beautiful UI, nice and easy to navigate. We haven't done all the ATO validations as yet. You'll see down the bottom here, we're hiding this ATO validation. We're still working on that to do all the ATO detailed validations, but we're doing our own internal validations. Here you can see there's an error. It'll highlight that here in red. I just need to select what type of trust it is. Save that, but it's populating all the different fields of the trust tax return, saving you a heap of time. Then just got to do the usual, just put in the signature dates, tax agent name, and basically save that. That gets rid of my validations. I can then mark it as printed out. As I said, we're not doing electronic lodgement yet. That is coming. We've got to get approval. Got to get through all the double checks and make sure all the calcs are working. So that's on our next agenda. But we still know a lot of you guys print this out, because we know this from the stats. About 40% of you guys print this out or export it and type it in manually into your other tax software anyway. So you can do that and save that and keep all your statuses there as well. We populate all the schedules as well. You can see I had some capital gains here. Losses schedule is populated. Rental schedule, you can just go in there. I had some rental income. On this particular fund, you can see it's populated the rental schedule is there. So all this data is coming from the general ledger. I may be out of date, but I haven't seen anyone do this level of integration between a general ledger and a tax return to this investment level, you know, to calculate all the CGT and do all the corporate actions. Having that all automated for your trusts is, to me, is a no-brainer. All right, so we'll keep moving, because I know not all of you are doing trusts. I know some of you do. It's always a challenge in these sessions. It's a bit of a diversity. I know some of you are doing pure SMSF, so we'll keep moving on. In the next item, I wanted to show you, as I said, electronic lodgement coming Q2, is some improvements that we're making to Simple Fund. So we've been getting a lot of feedback over the years, you know, since we probably launched Simple Fund 360 nearly 7 years ago now, 7 years in March, about the member statement. Everyone's got a slightly different version of what they want to show the member. So what we've really done is collate all that 7-year feedback, played it all together and created an alternative member statement and an alternative consolidated member statement. So I will show you that now. Just jump back in the software. We'll switch back to a super fund. All right, and we'll just jump into, I might just show you the report first. Here's the new report pack. So we've made some improvements to this report pack. If you haven't used it before, you can just save all your different report packs and just save them into what we call a pack. Don't keep dragging the reports one by one. Save the pack so it remembers your pack from last time. And I'll just show you the existing member statement that you're most likely using at the moment, so you're familiar with that. We also made some improvements to the speed in this release. We are always working in the back end to make sure the reports run fast. So hopefully you guys have seen the reports running that little bit quicker. I've certainly noticed it because I'm close to the coalface and use the software regularly. But hopefully you guys have seen that as well. This is the existing member statement that I haven't turned on the new one. So we might leave that open. Consolidate's pretty much the same. I'm then going to jump into badges for any new users to the system. This is how you can customize. If you've got different divisions in your business, if you're quite a large business, or you want to create different reporting for one partner might want the reporting different to another, or you might have a financial planning division. This is how you do it. You can set up your different logos here. About 3 months ago, we did a big improvement to resize the logos to make it more sizable. We also added here the ability to change the line color. So some people may have got a surprise and saw the pink and gone, oh my God, Matt, I hope you haven't changed everything to pink. No, that was just a custom setting that I put in here in the badge. And the funds are tied to this badge. So that's how we know which report to run by default, because you can basically set up which entities are attached to the badge here. So it's really just a grouping of funds to report in a certain way. We added margins, if you haven't seen that, for the portrait reports. A lot of people complaining that they, when they went to staple or bind the reports, that the portrait report was getting cut off the header, so you can move those margins. And the one here is this alternative member statement. Okay, turn that on, and that's turning it on for the whole badge. So every fund that's linked to it will now get this new alternate member statement. All right, so remember to save it. Once I've done that, if I go back to the reports here and run those reports again. So I'm just going to run the member statement. You will see it's now got quite a few differences. We're showing the account phase up the top here. We're showing the total increase, decrease now in much more summary format. And we're showing 3 years. We could, you know, some clients only want to show 2 years, some want to show 3 years. 3 years have been, seem to be the consensus. I know some of you are going to say, I want 5 years, Matt. Maybe have version 3. But the headings, summary is different here as well. The second page is pretty much the same. Okay, so that's the new alternate. Have a look, see whether you like, continue to give us feedback. We're really just trying to make the rate of return easier and just make it really based on your feedback. So that is that. It's also the consolidated member statement there as well. It's pretty much the same. You're not aware, that's where you can consolidate all your pension accounts into one report rather than printing huge reams of paper if you've got a fund with multiple members, multiple pension accounts. You can just get a consolidated one. That's been updated as well. Both will shift with that checkbox. We also added, that was the sprint before, but we didn't get a chance to show it in our last update. So that, just be aware there's new consent to appoint a trustee, new application to become a member. They're normally part of your document kits when you set up, but we just had some clients that wanted those, so we added that in the last release. We also updated the trustee minutes. We know some of you super advanced clients really like to customize their minutes. So now in settings, you only had the ability to add one custom paragraph. Now you can add multiple custom paragraphs. So you just click this button here, add custom paragraph, and it will just add it to the bottom, put your details in, and tick that box and it will turn on. Save that, it will remember your settings for this particular fund. Okay, and when you preview that minute resolution, you'll see those custom minutes pop up down the bottom here. So that is just a real sort of advanced hack, if you like, to just add your own custom minutes. That's not what I want to do. So you've also got lots of other settings there. Just while I'm there, if you haven't seen it, I'm just clicking the options here. You can turn off the various minutes, make it a default minute, make it a resolution. I'm all for resolutions. It's one less headache. Change that and store those details there. All right, I think that's mostly it for reports. Oh yeah, we did just add for, if you haven't seen, you can do your own custom report here. You can do your own custom letter and mail merge fields in. It's really just a default Word document. So you can download the standard template, open that up with Word. It's probably not going to appear on my screen, but that will show all the mail merge fields. So get it to show. No, I can't quite show you that, but take my word for it. On my other screen, it's just showing you all the templates and all the mail merge fields. You can open it in Word, and what you'll see in there is the new field for 5 and 6 member funds. So if you're wanting to print out a custom letter and you've got a 6-member fund, now the legislation changes have enabled that. We've added some mail merge fields. We also, in the unlikely events, I think we had one client that basically set up a 6-member fund and then wanted to shut it down in the same year. We also updated the tax return, the 2021, the 2022 hasn't been done, but we updated the 2021 return. If you wind up a fund in 2022 year, we will be able to handle and be able to show 6-member funds if you have set those up and wound them down. You'd be amazed the scenarios we've got to handle as a software company. So we updated that as well. So you can process and wind those funds up. So that's it for 6-member funds. I might just show you some corporate actions. Yeah, we're going all right for time. For those, you know, it's always a bit of a balance. I try to balance it out for the experts in this channel and those that may be fairly new to simple funds. So I'm just going to show you now a little bit how you do a corporate action. Because what we've done in this release is we've updated 7 corporate actions into the software. Okay, so we're always trying to keep in front. There's been a lot of sort of mergers that came through in December. One of the big ones we were getting requests was OS8, oil search. So I'm jumping into, next financial year, into my corporate action screen. In here, it shows me all the different corporate actions. If I get rid of this, this is part of your processing. It'll show all the corporate actions that you've got. We've got a huge database. We've got a team that updates this and puts all the information in to the system. and you can change the years. So just going to show you oil search. If you haven't done a corporate action, it might just help you out a little bit. If you don't do these manually with journal entries, if you're a desktop client that's just new to 360, jump in here, click process. So it's telling me here that I've got a mandatory corporate action. Oil search got taken over by STO, Santos, and I want to process that. So it fills in a lot of the details for me. I've got to put in the market value into here. I'm just going to put it in as its purchase cost, not tax advice, but here is the journal interest it's going to generate for me. All right. And that's pretty much it. It's got a takeover merger here. So it's effectively just moving the cost base out. It's showing you the negative cost base out of oil search, moving in that to Santos, and doing that on the date that you're inputting here. So we're generally picking up that date from the corporate action. That's the effectively corporate action date. That's the balance date that we populate. You can view the announcement details there, and then you just process it. Okay, so that's how you do a corporate action. We've updated 7 corporate actions. A lot of them were just takeovers. Just type in new features, or as you process a fund, you'll see those takeovers come up. The others I didn't really know, things, smaller companies, a lot in mining, Kiowa, PICBA. I haven't heard of a lot of these companies. Mergers, but they're all in there in our corporate action screen. So that's it for corporate actions. Director ID, I know you guys are struggling with this a little bit. We're trying to, I guess, make it easier to store the director ID numbers. If you're not aware, if you haven't been across, if you haven't been doing much ASIC stuff, you may not be aware that your clients have got to apply for a director ID. Existing clients have got till 30th of November 2022. We're not really doing much with the director ID. It's not really getting lodged through ASIC as such, but we've got to create it and I guess go through that ATO process, or the business register, and register our clients for that. Just be aware you've got 30th November. If you're setting up any new companies, you've basically got to do that pretty much now. If you're setting up a new company, you've got to get director ID and get them all set up. I know a lot of the company formation providers are in the process of doing that or have already done that. Speak to them. But what we've done in the software, we added the ability to store the director ID a while ago. What we're doing here now is just trying to make it the ability to just, stopping any duplicates. We just had a discussion, I guess, and looked at the feedback. I'll show you in the contact screen where that's located. So I might go this way. I'll show you the fund relationship screen. This is where you can see all the directors in here. I can just see the relationships here of the agent. Sorry, wrong one. I wanted to click on the trustee. That's the relationships there for the director. Here I've got Donald and I've got Jenny. You can just edit there, go straight into the contact screen. You'll see the Australian director ID. I'm just going to paste in something that should be duplicated. So this one should give me a warning. Yes, it does. But that DIN has already been entered. So it's just warning me that that DIN number's already been used, just to prevent any possible errors that you may have putting in. So that I just have to make sure it's unique. Save that change, and it's storing that. How do I keep track of all these that I've put in there? I can go into the contact screen and export all the contacts. And in there, we've put in the DIN number. So I just export that to CSV, and I can see where all the HIN number, where all the director IDs are stored, and which director hasn't put that in. So that's a bit of an update there on director IDs if you haven't seen that. In CAS, which is our corporate affairs package, that's dedicated. They've put a whole lot more functionality for director ID manager. I'm not going to show you all that today, but just be aware they've got director ID alerts. They've put a lot more focus on it. It's just a small part of SMSF. We've been focused on SuperStream. But here they've got some director alerts that just tell you, when a director ID is required. You can print these off out. As I said, here's the export that you see out of Simple Fund, out of that CSV file. But they've got a bit more fancy reporting rather than just a CSV file, and some alerts just to keep track of all your different companies. Okay, so have a look at our CAS solution if you haven't. Or attend one of our director ID YouTube sessions. Just type in CAS and BGL director ID into YouTube, and you'll find some more information if that's of interest. All right, so what are we still working on? The document screen. We know the document screen is lagging. It's actually been around for longer than 360 itself. It's been around for 9 years because we ported this from our portal solution, so it's well in need of an overhaul. We're improving the filters. We're trying to make it easier to navigate through digital signing and find what's outstanding. And we've also got some cool tech where you can email any document to an email address, which we're working on. Don't want to give it all away. Come along to our sessions, which is Masterclass, where we show a little bit more of this. But it's really going to be a game changer where you'll be able to email things like dividends, bank statements, and have those automatically filed, not only into the document screen, but into our work paper screen. So a lot of that manual work where you may be uploading into your work papers, dividend statements, your client could either email those, or you just do a bulk email of all your documents out of your document management system in, and have all your work papers prepared. So that's some pretty cool tech. Don't want to show it all off yet, more leave it with a teaser. Other things we're working on, we're seeing you guys struggle with a lot of crypto. Right at the moment, everyone's chasing yields. I'm sure you've got trustees getting a little bit less conservative than they normally are in term deposits, not paying any yields, or bank accounts paying, nothing. So they're chasing yields. We're seeing that in the data. We're seeing some 15% increase in 2022 in crypto investments. So we're working on doing a price valuation. You can record crypto. We've got a detailed help file on crypto. We know it's a pain. But we're doing some valuations. Rather than you manually type the price in, we're working with a provider to get all the different crypto coins, tokens, and having those valued daily across 4 Australian exchanges. We want to make it Australian. I know some of you may be going to coinmarket.com and picking up prices there, and then having to manually convert them into Australian dollars and do all that. We're going to automate a lot of that for crypto valuations, just so you can keep the funds up to date a little bit easier and do it daily. We're also working, this is a huge project, on pay-as-you-go payment summaries, making those electronic. Don't expect that in the next few weeks. That's really the next few months. But it's good I can show you this sort of progress. That's really going to help with handling pay-as-you-go payment summaries, income stream, lump sum, and being able to lodge all those electronically through the software. I remember one particular desktop client, I won't mention his name, asked for this way back in desktop probably 10 years ago, and we never had a chance to do it. So finally, after 10 years, we're finally getting some resources, as long as the ATO don't hit us with SuperStream version 4 or a new budget change. Let's hope not. Fingers crossed we can get some of this payment summary electronically done for those that are struggling with those or doing it outside our software at the moment. So that's payment summaries. What else have I got to show you? Oh, yes. Now I'm just going to shill Masterclass. Masterclass, for those that may not be aware, this is a chance to do a bit more in-depth. These update sessions, really, I'm just touching on the software. These are really to get, you know, probably your mid-level, even your junior, up to a more master level. It's not really for your super advanced compliance. We don't go into the real compliance aspects. We touch on them, but it's mostly to sort of be a bit of a ninja on Simple Fund 360. So we're running a session 24th of March. It is a virtual session. It is paid. It's $55, unlike these sessions. And we're also running one for Simple Invest because we don't have any specific training for Simple Invest. So this is a chance, if you've played around with Simple Invest or haven't had enough time to really learn. I've only shown you very briefly Simple Invest. We're running a session. Andrew's on the call today answering questions. Both Andrews are going to run that on 31st of March. Both are $55. Both are virtual. You get 1.5 hours of CPD. And away you go. We've also got RegTech coming up. RegTech's not so much about the software. We very more talk about technology trends and evolution of technology. These will be run by our CEO, Ron Lesh. If you want to chat to him, he's been around the industry for a long time. These are going to be on-prem in Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, and Melbourne. So if you haven't had a chance to catch up with a few BGLers, it's been over 2 years, here's your opportunity. Those are the dates. Perth is going to be virtual. I'm sorry to the Perth clients. They wouldn't let us in. I'm sure you've experienced this as well from other providers, but we couldn't get into Perth. Unfortunately, we had the most numbers register for Perth. So we are a little bit disappointed, but we will be running that virtual together with our Melbourne session. So it's a chance just to see the heads of BGL and go through some of, I guess, the technology, machine learning, and some of the smart docs that I can't show you today. That's really it. We're right on time for the session today. So thank you for those that have got to run. Really appreciate your time. Hopefully you got one or two things out. That's really what I'm after in these sessions. Really just to give you a bit of an overview, as well as, you know, into some of the SuperStream stuff that you may be tearing your hair out. Hopefully you've got something from that today. Thank you for your time. I will just pause here for a little bit. There will be a recording of this video, and there will be an email of the PowerPoint presentation get sent out to you if you've registered through that email. Thank you, and we'll take a pause, and then I'll come back in a couple of minutes to answer any themed-based questions I can. Okay, for those still hanging around, I can still see there's a few of you. I'll try to go through some of the questions. The guys have been going through them. I'm just going to go through a few So type your questions in. We've got about 10 minutes. How do you attach documents directly to the accounting information? That's a good one. I would love to show you. Let's just shut down this slide. Jump out of there into the software. So into our reporting and work papers. This is the way I like to show it. There's a lot of different ways to attach documents, but I find this the most efficient. You can just come in here, attach a document, and just if it's already in your cloud, you can just attach it there, or you can click here to browse and drag and drop the file. Attach that to the particular work paper. If you want to get down to the, probably not the best example, the sub-account level, you know, maybe like a bank account, you might, I normally for my bank accounts, I still put the paper copy there. You can attach it at this bank account level. If you really want to go full hat, but I don't recommend this, you can attach to the actual transaction. If it's maybe a purchase of a property, it's a little bit hidden. Yeah. Where you can attach to a particular transaction. That will show up in work papers, but that's how you do it. All right, saw a question there just on bank feeds, credit cards. Yeah, we don't support too many credit cards. That's something we hope to improve if you're looking at credit cards for businesses or trusts, companies or trusts. We don't support a heap of credit cards. That's something the team is working on. We've generally been focused on SMSF accounts and trying to get term deposits where we can. What else have we got? Property. Why don't we do one on property? Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea. I might add that to Masterclass. We have added a lot of features on property. If you're not aware, there's a property dashboard here where you can store a lot more information than you could in the past. If you haven't looked at this screen for a while, we've put some lease details in, start and end dates. So you can upload documents. There's another place you can upload documents, your property purchases, they'll get attached to the work papers. There's a whole heap of property stuff in this new dashboard. What's not so much new, probably 12 months old. What else have we got? What other themes? Keep putting your questions in. Moved over from desktop to 360. Some feedback with respect to the index page is much better than professional field than in desktop. The member caps page in Simple 360 run over to a second page. Okay, we'll have a look at that. Yeah, let us know. Normally, if you're having issues with page breaks, it may be that you've customized a particular document. So just have a look at that and reset the document in the reports. You may not have done it, maybe someone else did it. We do see the notes occasionally suffer from that. We always try to improve it. But just in this templates, you can, for the notes, you can reset the templates back to defaults. Just be aware of that. Sometimes if you do add additional text to the notes, it can cause some page break issues. We do try to align it as much as possible. I do hear your feedback. There's just a question there just about director ID. I did show that sort of in the sample. It's not really a requirement. You know, I just made that up. I have seen some clients put in consents. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to give legal advice, but it's just if you do want to add consents into your standard minutes to store the director IDs, you know, I have seen one client request it, so that's why, I did it just on Director ID. You can add that if you want. We haven't seen the need to add it as the default template at this stage, but I'm happy to be corrected if a lawyer tells me otherwise. What else have we got in here? Oh, that's a good, yeah, Drew, I can see if you've previously uploaded the doc, how do you attach it to a transaction? It should, if you've previously attached, it should appear when you're in the transaction. I know it's not always the case, but it should appear if you've previously attached it. Oh yeah, it's a good one. It's a little bit hard. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. It's a little bit different, this screen, from the other document screen. We'll have to look at that. All right, so I'll just go through a couple of other, just jump back. You see there's a lot of SuperStream. BT still require paper forms. Yeah, we've had a few of that. I won't name and shame too many, but yeah, we've seen some APRA funds where you've requested, you've been the transferring fund, and then they've rang you up and said, no, I need to be the transferring fund. That's not the case. You can initiate it. That's what the law says. That's what the requirements are. But for some of these large APRA funds, they've been telling our clients they've got to initiate the rollover request. That's not the case. They should be able to accept it. Point them to the ATO standards. But sometimes you just got to play dice with some of these APRA funds if you need to. You have to roll over. Pardon my pun. Who provides the PRN? The payment reference number is provided by the transferring fund. So if you've initiated the rollover from your software, it's going to generate a payment reference number. We're following the ATO guidelines. It's got effectively a combination of the date in that payment reference number. It's restricted to a certain number of characters. We've made sure that payment reference number can be put into all the different internet banking solutions. So it's generated in the software. We're also putting it in the email that gets generated when you generate a rollover. The payment reference number goes in there, and it's always shown in the dashboard. Once you receive that payment reference number, you can always see it. This one. Yeah, so you can see the payment reference number here. So that's generated by the software automatically. You generally shouldn't change that. It's following the ATO standard. We've had a very minor number of APRA funds say they can't accept that payment reference number. We just say it follows the ATO standard. It's very important. Why is the payment reference number important? If you're shutting down a fund and you've got 3 or 4 members, you've got to be able to distinguish. The APRA fund's got to distinguish between those members. They may be able to match up the ABN, but they won't be able to match up the particular dollar amount if they're all very similar dollar amounts. So that's why the payment reference number is so important. On that, I'll just see if there's any other open questions. I'm not quite sure about that one. How do I enter the 8-cap data? Not sure about that, Mira, what you mean by 8-cap data. When you change the ESA from Australia Post to BGL, will SuperStream report change? That's a good one. The SuperStream report, you do just need to reset the template. If you've set up some of the reports to notify the member, I think they're under letters here. Yeah, so if you've set up these sort of notification letters, sometimes it will still show Australia Post. Yeah, here. All right, that's something that's a bit of a pain. We've got it on our FAQs. Just what you need to do, it's sort of what I showed you before, is just reset the template. Where's it gone? There's too many. Just reset the template in here. It's pretty much the same setting. Not that one. I'll show you on the report, consent. Template. Just reset it. Just click reset and it will show then the new BGL ESA. We'll see if we can try to automate that, but it's quite hard for us to reset the template and for some of the funds. So once you've done that for one badge, it should be fine for the rest. So thank you for that question. Hopefully that clears that one up, Daisy. And we've just gone 3 o'clock. So thank you very much for those that hang around for questions. I hope most of you got them answered. They're all cleared on my end. Thank you very much. We'll finish it there.